Welcome, everyone, to a brand new series here presented by the Boiling Point podcast. It's called Becoming a New Father with Mizpah. Mizpah and the Breeze just had their first baby, and Mizpah wanted to document some of his experiences, him and the Breeze's experiences. This is not going to be a series so much about his new daughter, but as about him and the Breeze and their new journey with parenthood. So please leave us a comment. If you have a comment or a question for Mizpah, please leave it in the comments and share it out. We want to get some people watching this new series, so please share it out. Mizpah, this is gonna be pretty much your series. I'm gonna be here just as kind of more of like a director and a host as I do. But so you've had the baby home now 8 days.
Yeah, it's been 8 days. And part of the reason I wanted to do this is because I feel like everybody sees parenthood and sees, a new baby coming home, and it's, fascinating, sparkly, shiny, new. But nobody really talks about the in the moment things, or, the quite frankly, some of the disgusting things, or the dark, the bad side of things.
Yeah, the hard parts too, because it's not all just sunshine and roses.
No, it definitely is not. But even in the hard parts, there is, some sun shining moments.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's been a wild ride so far, and I can't wait.
Yeah. Now, just so that people understand that this first episode that we're doing, we are currently shooting at 1:17 in the morning, because that's when Mizpah has time free and the baby is sleeping. So this is when we're doing it. We're going to be shooting this series around his schedule. I don't need sleep, so I just go whenever people can go. That's my shtick. What?
We're actually shooting around the baby's schedule at this point.
That's a good point. Yes, the baby schedule, not so much your schedule, but the baby schedule. So you were in the hospital for a couple of days during the birth. The birth was not just a quick one.
5 days.
5 days.
We went to a weekly follow-up appointment with the doctor, totally expecting for it to be okay, everything looks great, see you next week. Just like it was the week before, when they told us everything was great, everything was on track, everything was perfect. And we get to the doctor and he says, "So I'm sending you to the hospital. We're gonna induce you." So we had a little bit of a freak out moment.
How's that? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. How was that? I mean, you're going for what you think is a regular routine checkup here, and the doctor's like, "Yeah, we're sending you over to the hospital. We're going to induce labor."
So, obviously I had questions. The first one being why.
Yeah.
And the doctor, he didn't do the greatest of job of explaining why.
Really? Because that's what I was just going to ask, without revealing any medical information, of course. But the doctor didn't do a good job at answering your questions then, or alleviating any of your stress?
No, not at all.
That's
he attempted to, and I will give him that credit. He tried very hard, but he's one of them people who he's so smart that when he tries to dumb something down into common instead of medicalese, it got lost in translation.
I understand. That can happen. That's what we try and do here on the show, which you help with. We try and make sure people are understanding the topics that we're talking about.
So when we went to the hospital, he left us under the impression that we were just going to the hospital to be observed for possibly being induced.
Oh, okay.
So we got to the hospital, got checked in. They took us back into our own room, and all of a sudden in comes a small team of people, and they're like, "So we hear you're being induced today." Needless to say, we were just like, "Wait, hold up. That's not what we're under the impression of." And that was the order the doctor had sent over. The doctor was the one that made the call.
And didn't inform you that that's what was happening.
No,
Yeah.
that's under the impression. In fact, he told us we were being sent for observation.
Did you I mean, obviously you have the control, so you didn't necessarily you don't just have to. Did you try and get the answers to your questions before you guys consented, or?
So, yes and no. Like, I had gotten enough information to know that it felt like this was the right decision to make.
Okay.
Um, I found out the important information. Baby was healthy. Baby was doing good. All of her vitals were good. Mom was happy. Mommy was healthy. All of her vitals were good. And it was just, there was something that he had seen that was of concern and could have been a bigger problem later.
Yeah. So then you consented. I'm sure that was scary for the both of you then while you were,
Oh yeah.
the whole thing.
We totally had a complete and total freak out together. Because we were expecting to have, another like 3-4 weeks to prepare and get things ready. And like, for example, I didn't even have the car seat put together yet to be able to bring her home.
Yeah.
So, that was still sitting in the living room in the box that
Yeah.
it came. Stupid little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not stupid though when you think about it. I mean, you have the car seat. Oh, I got a couple weeks to put it together, and you go, check up at the doctors, and all of a sudden you're in the hospital in the gown, inducing labor.
Yeah. So we were not ready for that, but we both, after we had our moment, we realized, it's all good. After the baby gets here, I'll have time to run home, take care of the things we need to take care of.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
Yeah.
So when a woman is induced for pregnancy, they have to actually give her medicine and stuff to prepare certain things within her own body, especially when it is nowhere near ready for delivering a baby. Like, her body was not thinking about delivery at all at that point.
Yeah, because she still had 3 or 4 weeks to go.
Yeah. So that was the first night in the hospital. Going through that.
Just trying to induce her.
Well, prepping her body for
inducing. Oh, yeah, okay. So not even just inducing her, just prepping her body for inducing.
Yeah, to start active labor.
Yeah, that's how about that? Isn't that interesting? I think that you pretty much took a whole day to try and give her drugs and whatever to prepare her body.
Yeah, that was so. That wasn't too bad. We were like, well, okay, that makes sense to us.
But just think about what the body does then through childbirth. What she had to go through, just delivering early or inducing, before nature intended. That's crazy.
It was very educational for me.
Yeah.
Then the next day they actually started giving her the medications to induce and start the labor process.
And how long did that take?
2 days.
I asked that even though I knew the answer to that question. Mizpah and I were texting while this was going on, so it was 2 days. Yeah, it was 2 days of Mizpah. Hey, how are things? You good? And Mizpah going, well, she's still in labor. This is how far along, and it was a long 2 days, I'm sure, for her and for you as well.
And I gained so much more of an appreciation for my wife because she was trying very hard to go with as little medication as she could.
Yeah.
And so they had her hooked up to different charts and stuff, and there's one that measures like how strong of a contraction she's having. And I mean, for example, let's say the baseline is 0 and the top of that chart is 50. She was having contractions that were pinging to the top of the chart and we're going past that, but we're no longer being measured.
Yeah.
And then, a small little section later coming back down without any pain medication or anything like that. And there wasn't even as much as like a groan, a whimper, anything from my wife. She was just kind of like, okay, this is happening at this moment and it'll pass and I'm good.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
I was just in awe because I mean, I say that because I'm a little biased, but I've always known my wife was a very strong, independent woman. It's part of the reason why I married her. But to experience seeing her go through that
Yeah.
took to a whole next level. Unfortunately, the medications and stuff that they gave her did not advance things far enough. So on the third day, the doctor decided that it was time to go in and take the baby out.
With a C-section is what you're referring. So here you are. So you're 2 days. You're 2 days in. 3 days in, because the first day was getting her body ready to be induced, and then days 2 and 3 were trying to induce. So now you're on day 4, and now they're saying, all right, it's just time. We got to go get, it's time to go get her out.
Well, it was actually 3 total days. The third,
okay.
Once they made the decision to do a C-section, it was quick.
I mean, all right. So it was at the end of the third day, is what you're saying, that they decided to then just, it's time to get the baby out.
Yep.
And everything was good.
Oh yeah, everything went smooth with that part of the process. It was an hour and a half from the time they made the decision until the time that our daughter arrived.
And can we say how big she was to the viewers?
13 ounces.
4 pounds, 13 ounces. Tiny.
7 inches long.
7 inches long. Yep. So far too tiny for Uncle John to hold yet. But so is that what they were concerned about, though? Is that one of the things that they were initially concerned about, because she was tiny?
Yeah, one of the things that they were concerned about was her weight.
I mean, with only 3 or 4 weeks to go, at 4 pounds, you can't imagine that in the last 3 or 4 weeks are going. Although I don't know, I don't have any kids, so maybe I'm talking rubbish.
So I don't know how much more weight they put on in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or any statistics about that. I know my personal experience. She was 4 pounds, 13 ounces.
Yeah, but even 3 weeks early, I guess, 3 weeks, a month early, but yeah, 4 pounds, that's tiny. And then did you have to go to the NICU at all? Any time in the NICU?
No, actually, she was just above the weight limit to have to go to NICU. So luckily, by the grace of God, we were able to keep her in our room with us. I did get an experience that I was not expecting. I didn't think I'd be able to go into the surgery room with her for the C-section process. And I did get to do that. I've also learned that scrubs are not sized in the size that you'd think they are. It was very much Fat Man in the little coat.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Those things were screaming and hanging on by a thread. But I got them on and I was able to get in the room. Which is an experience that no matter how much the doctors and nurses talk to you, you're not prepared for at all.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine. No, I can't imagine at all. And especially with everything you guys were going through, too. I mean, it had to be surreal. You had to be almost out of body.
Oh, yeah. It definitely was. I mean, so they take her in and they get her prepped and ready. And then they bring me in and they have a big kind of curtain. So all I can see is my wife's head.
Yeah. You're on this side of it. Yep.
I'm on the top side of things.
Yeah.
And they have a little stool for me to sit at, and it's so the curtain, it's very much a makeshift curtain. It's stuck on 2 IV poles on wheels. That's an important thing, and I'll get back to that in a minute. So they have me sitting pretty much right up against this curtain, and I'm there telling my wife, she's doing great. Everything's good. She's doing awesome. No worries. Everything's great. Meanwhile, internally, I am freaking out.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And then the doctor looks at me and asks if I want to see them bringing our daughter out into the world.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I didn't want to miss that opportunity. So they say, okay, well, we'll let you know when we're ready and, where to stand. And so the time comes and she says, okay, stand up. Remember the IV poles that I mentioned?
Yeah.
Well, they're on wheels and they had one right at my foot.
And you stepped on it.
When I stood up, I kicked the wheel and practically knocked over the entire curtain. Very quickly grabbing it and like freezing and not wanting to move at all, because now I feel like Wreck-It Ralph in the OR. But nobody blinked an eye.
Yeah.
Nobody even missed a beat. It was like it never happened.
Yeah. Well, they're pros.
I got to see our daughter being essentially pulled out into the world.
Yeah. Now that had to have been an out-of-body experience.
That was undescribable. Like so many emotions going on at one time. Lots of tears. And then as soon as I heard her cry, like just incredible, overwhelming experience.
Yeah. And then even at 4 pounds, 13 ounces, she's screaming out of the world. And you also said, I want to make sure we bring this up too, because she was also very wide-eyed, which is something that most newborns don't.
The surgeon who did it had many, many years of experience doing this. And the fact that when she pulled her out of the womb, her eyes were wide open and she was fully alert as to what was going on around her. She was just looking. Anybody would say something, she was looking right at them. The surgeon was stunned.
Yeah.
And made sure to tell, like, the people she's working with. She's like, "Do you see this?
Yeah.
Did you catch this?" And for somebody who's got that many years of experience to be shocked by something like that, amazed me.
Yeah.
To, again, a little biased, but they pulled her out and I'm crying. I'm a mess.
Yeah.
I'm all kinds of emotional. And
the breeze is in a haze.
Yeah, she's still not 100% sure what's going on at that moment.
Well,
she can't see or feel anything.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. She's essentially just
me being a mess.
Yeah.
And so she's asking if she's okay.
Yeah.
For her, I couldn't answer right away. And then she heard her cry, and then she knew she was okay as well.
Yeah.
But when I looked, cleared my eyes off and looked back up, my daughter was physically looking right at me.
Yeah.
There was that moment. And I know babies can't really see a whole lot of shapes but they see shadow or movement or whatever doctors explain that as. But
yeah, well, really though, we don't know what they see and what they don't see. It's all it's all based on tests that don't really have, in reality, we don't really know.
There was that moment. And then
I say that though because I think all babies see shapes and they see this and that. I don't know. Sometimes they recognize faces. They recognize voices. So I don't
recognize voices.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't recognize faces coming out of the womb. They didn't see they never saw your face. But I think when a baby sees the face of their parents, I think that's something too. You know what I mean? Not just the sound of their voice. I think that's something as well. So
I'd agree with that.
Of course, again, on full disclosure, I am not a parent. I am an uncle many times over, but not a parent.
So, I've had that moment. was incredible, is the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
You know, it was absolutely a moment from God. Then all of a sudden realization sets in that my wife is laying there with a great big incision across her.
Mm-hmm.
Things are just kind of there, and I've seen parts of my wife that my wife hasn't seen. And
then you got woozy.
Not so much woozy, just more of a like that the reality of the situation has
that's the out of body experience that I was talking about. So you didn't experience it until you noticed your wife there open, and that's when you experienced it.
Yeah, up until that moment, everything was kind of
it was all. I mean,
a blur. Everything was moving so fast.
Yeah.
That I was just kind of like, okay, this is what you want me to do now. Oh, okay, I need to be over here now. Okay, and then the moment with seeing my daughter coming out into the world, that was a stunning moment. But the realization of reality of what's setting in happened, and I just kind of sat there for a minute. I was like, my first thought was, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. God, I hope they put her back together right.
Like she's Humpty Dumpty or something.
But, like, people make mistakes.
Yeah, certainly.
It was, I hope everything goes okay. I hope the rest of this goes fine.
Yeah.
I just prayed right there.
Yeah, so you realized at that moment you weren't really necessarily out of the woods yet. I mean, you just saw your daughter being born, and that's amazing, but your wife still is not finished necessarily.
So, yeah,
that had to be quite a roller coaster.
It was very not. It was definitely not what I was envisioning in my head. There were some things that I had seen that definitely were not expected.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, like I knew to expect it, but I wasn't expecting it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you can expect something, but can you really ever expect something like that? That's, I think, is what you're trying to say. You were expecting it, but when the time actually came, it doesn't matter how much you're expecting it. It's still going to catch you unexpectedly.
Yeah, a little shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to bring her home.
Well, not right away.
No.
They kept us for a couple days of observation. Quite honestly, to ensure that we knew how to take care of this baby.
Really? Is that really why you think that's why they kept you there a couple extra days? They wanted to make sure you knew how to take care of a baby.
That's what they told us.
That's what they told you. Well, then I guess that would be why. Did you find that shocking?
Well, and I've asked myself this question because I don't know the answer to that. On one hand, I feel like it's a good thing based on my experiences with people in this world. I believe that there are people that they probably do need to observe to see if they know how to take care of a child. But I also feel like there was a little bit more to it than that. Obviously, like they wanted to make sure my wife came out of surgery okay, so they were observing her. But while they're doing that, they're also checking to make sure, we're going to take care of this child. And
yeah,
we were outright told that.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. See, I find that interesting. Especially the fact that they outright told you that. I find that very interesting. I mean, we've gone from having babies at home in this country to having them in hospitals, where the hospital then decides, are you fit to take your baby home?
Yeah, and that was kind of a realization of, once they told me that, it was, oh, well, what if they decide we're not?
Exactly. That's kind of what I was hinting at there. I mean, because you and I know somebody else mutually that is kind of in a different situation, but dealing where this person has to deal with outside opinions from hospitals and administrators and stuff on their opinion is this child being cared for. And my opinion on that is, who the hell are they? I'll raise my kid how I damn well please. We have that right in this country, to raise our kids. But I see your point of view too, because there are a lot of people who don't take care of children or don't know how, and it's a fine line. How do we walk that line of?
Well, and there, postpartum is very much a very real thing.
Yeah.
Because I was there, so I was talking to the nurses and filling time where I could, because it was either while the baby was sleeping, I was sitting there like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
And there are women who after birth, they go through this weird mental state and emotional state where they want nothing to do with the child. Like, they don't want to touch it, they don't want to hold it, they don't want anything, because they've just had a traumatic experience and they're trying to process all of that.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do. So things like that happen, which is probably part of the reason why the hospital does what they do.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a fine line, right? I think that's
fine there.
Yeah, I think that's my point, is that it's just a fine line, because you want to keep children safe, but do they ever reach the point where they're almost encroaching or infringing? Who are they to decide whether or not you're a parent? You know what I mean? It's a fine line that they have to walk, and I don't envy their position as healthcare workers to have to make that call and to have to decide those things.
Now, lucky for us, apparently we did such a great job that, like, some of the nurses thought this was our second child.
Oh, well, good.
Because some of them were very surprised to see that this was our first child.
Yeah.
And it got to the point to where, like, they were just kind of like, all right, well, the nurses station's right outside your door if you need anything.
Yeah. Well, that's good then.
Alone. So then, we got to come home. We had to pass a car seat test.
Really?
Because of how small she was. They needed to make sure she'd be safe in her car seat to be able to go home.
Oh, so not like a test to see if you knew how to put her in there, but to see if she could sit or fit into a car seat?
Well, to see if she was able to withstand the stress of being in a car seat.
Okay.
Like with the straps going across her chest or her neck and stuff. And her, just because of her size.
Yeah.
There was a chance that she wouldn't be able to be in a car seat.
Yeah.
If she would have failed that test, there is something that they offer that you can actually borrow from the hospital, otherwise rent, basically, from them to be able to get the baby home. But we didn't need that.
Well, that's good, but it's also good that they do have an alternative in case the baby, because that was going to be my next question. What happened if your daughter would have failed the car seat test? You have to stay at the hospital?
Yeah, that was my very first question, because by that point I was definitely ready to be out of the hospital.
Yeah, I can imagine you guys needing to
I don't like hospitals to begin with.
Yeah. And you're talking about how much would she have to grow, or how much weight would she have to gain before she would fit in the car seat? You're talking about what, she's got to stay there a week or two or a month? Like, that's crazy. So that's good that they have an alternative.
Not all car seats go down to 4 pounds.
Yeah, certainly not. I can't imagine you guys were prepared to have a 4-pound, 13-ounce little girl. I mean, you were expecting a girl, but not for her to be 4 pounds, 13 ounces.
And just by luck, our car seat went all the way down to 4 pounds. Because I was thankful about that, because I wasn't about to have to go run around every store in our area to find a car seat and spend that kind of money just to bring her home.
Yeah. Let's be honest. You could have posted on something on Facebook. You'd have had it in 10 minutes.
However, I would have done that if I had to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have just you could have just said, yeah, I need a car seat that supports 4 pounds. It'd have been there in 10 minutes. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah. And that's the other thing I'm very fortunate with is, well, me and my wife both, we have such an amazing support structure around us between family and friends and, family.
Yeah.
We've had an outpouring of support to help us, which has been, I've always known that I've had people around to help me in times of need, because I've had many of experience in my life that, I've had extreme highs, extreme lows, and quite outright insane moments during my life.
Yeah.
That support structure that's been there for me has been amazing. But this is just a whole different level.
Yeah.
And then once we got our daughter home, it was, we thought we knew kind of what to expect based on what the hospital told us, based on what we experienced while we were in the hospital. We were wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong. We take everything we kind of expected and thought we might have understood and just throw that right out the window, because they're just expect everything to not go the way you expect it to.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned with this first week. Sleep is precious.
Yeah.
Get it while you can. Babies go through phases very, very, very quickly, and there will be drastic changes during those phases very, very, very quickly. And you don't know what to look for.
Yeah.
So an example, when a baby is first born, they have very frequent bowel movements, typically. The first 24 hours, 48 hours of life. And what that is, that's purging everything that they had taken in while being inside the mom.
Yeah.
Preparing themselves to actually intake food orally. And then during that phase, while they're feeding, they go through this part it's called cluster feeding, where they eat smaller amounts of food very frequently. And there's no real set time of when that happens.
Yeah.
When it does, you'll know.
Yeah.
Because you will go from feeding, every 3 hours to feeding the baby every 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, 20 minutes after that, you're changing a diaper.
Yep.
And, 20 minutes after that, you're feeding. 20 minutes after that, you're changing a diaper.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the whole night.
Yeah.
So obviously there is no sleep during that time period.
Yeah.
And because it was such a change in, 3 hours feed, change the diaper, good to go for another couple hours, to every 20 minutes something's going on. We were sitting there questioning, is this normal? Is this to be expected? Is this what should be happening? Is there something wrong? Are we doing something wrong? And we had the hospital we were in, we had some fantastic nurses, people who love their job and love what they do, and had absolutely no problems coming in and answering questions, or a couple of them were almost intuitive. It was almost like they knew when to expect something, and they come in and be like, "So how's it going?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's normal. Or, expect this to happen pretty soon.
Yeah.
And, that was a level of service and dedication that you don't see anymore.
Yeah, certainly. And that's great that you got people that are good at their job, for your daughter.
And then when we get home, you kind of settle into a little bit of a think's going to become a routine. And then after a couple days of that routine, it's no longer the routine. That's what we'll
do for episode the next episode is we can talk about the shifts in the schedule that she's having.
Yeah, we could definitely touch on that. And that's why I said at the beginning of this episode, we're
revolving around your daughter. Yeah,
not mine.
Hers. Yeah.
Seeing as how I'm losing the ability to speak at this point, because it's almost 2 in the morning.
Now it's almost 2 in the morning at this point. So yeah, we've been going about 35 minutes or so.
So I think I'm gonna call this at that point, and I'm gonna go get some sleep while I can.
Yeah, I think you should. Well, thanks for taking the time with this, and this is just the first episode. We'll be having other episodes. Make sure you share them out. Leave Mizpah and the Breeze a comment if you would, and make sure you hit the like button. For the new father, Mizpah, I am your host, JD. Make sure you check us out, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. Marcus Frederiksen is going to play us out. That's the end.
Good night.